Once again, big rumor in the NHL on the trading block, Elias Pettersson. One of the most lightning rod figures in the NHL the past year, kind of sneakily so. But the Canucks could be looking to move him again. Obviously, it's been a bit of a soap opera, bit of a saga with Elias Pettersson the last 2 seasons in Vancouver. It was the huge rift he had between himself and JT Miller. Miller ends up being the one that's traded in February or so last year, early February, to the New York Rangers. We talked a lot about that on this show, whether Miller or Pettersson was someone the Bruins could go after. And Pettersson's game did not lift up after Miller was gone. He had a bad year. He's coming off a bad year. But is there a trade scenario where the Bruins could go out and get Elias Pettersson and for it to make sense? My answer is yes. Now, I will say, I don't know how much of a bias this is, but I've always been a big Elias Pettersson fan. And I really just love his game when he's on. But let's, again, not make any mistake about it. He's coming off a bad season for him. 45 points in 64 games and a -10 for a guy who was a 100-point scorer 2 years ago at age 24. And even last year in the 23-24 season, he had over a point a game, 89 points in 82 games and a +20. And with the Canucks downfall, so has come Elias Pettersson's downfall. And he's come off as a baby. He's come off as pretty moody. He's come off as soft on and off the ice. It's not been a good look for the Canucks alternate captain the last year and a half or so. You know, obviously his 23-24 season doesn't get cut short, but he's got an injury towards the end of it and in the postseason. But he's coming off a pretty bad year. He's not effective on the power play. His time on ice was down. He was not a playmaker. He was not the same defensive forward that he's been in years past, a guy who's getting Selke votes every year. Was when he's on his game, he's a top 10 player in the league. When you're a 100-point scorer, that's a top 10 guy potentially. And if you're the Bruins, you really need some talent. You really need an influx of talent here. And I think there's an opportunity that you can go out and get a guy like Elias Pettersson, who does have a big cap hit, 11.6 AAV, 11.6 million AAV through 2031-32. Like, that's a long time we're talking about. But you are also talking about a guy who is supposed to be entering the prime of his career, who has the potential to be a 100-point scorer. Not the potential. He's done it in this league. He's done it. And for all this talk about Mitch Marner, you know, oh, these 100-point scorers, they never go to market in their prime like Mitch Marner is. And that's true. But here's Elias Pettersson at a position of need. I mean, that's not to discount Mitch Marner because he's a winger. You could absolutely use him. But you need a number one center so bad. Elias Pettersson is that. He's not Elias Lindholm was that. He's not. Elias Pettersson is a guy who he's familiar with. Another Swede, another former Canuck. They have a relationship there. He's had a relationship with Zadorov, you know, from his half a season in Vancouver. He fills a huge need. He is entering in his prime. He is a 100-point guy, and he's not at market. You've got to trade something for him, but his trade value will probably never be lower than this. Because it seems like they're really fed up with him in Vancouver, and they are near blow-up mode if Quinn Hughes decides he wants to go and play with his brother. So they might really be looking to offload him here. This could be a savvy move for Don Sweeney. I know it's not apples to apples with the Marner thing because he is coming off a bad year, but you're talking about a 4-time All-Star who's not even 27 yet. Like this, a year ago, 12 months ago, this would have been unfathomable to think that the Canucks would be trading Elias Pettersson. It's fathomable now. And the Bruins do have some draft capital for the first time in like ever. You know, I'm not saying go and trade all your first-round picks for Elias Pettersson. But can you move off some of these guys, these young guys that you got at the trade deadline with high upside, cheap contracts, and a couple of premium picks? There's some outlet in Vancouver that's thinking that they could trade Pettersson to Montreal for 2 first-round picks this year, 2 2025 first-round picks. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And any GM who does that is not holding anybody's feet to the fire and doing a disservice to what this trade is actually going to be. Because bottom line is, Pettersson's coming off a bad year, and it's $11.5 million a year. The Canucks cannot be thinking, oh, we're going to get 2 first-round picks for this guy. You'll get one, and you'll get another good pick or another good roster player, and you might even have to eat some of the contract. Like if we're giving you 2 first-round picks, okay, you're eating a quarter of that contract, maybe even half. And by the way, if I'm the Bruins and that's on the table, I might still think about that too. But the bottom line is, you need playmakers. You need a number 1 center. Elias Pettersson still can give you that. Like, there is that argument that he might just need a change of scenery. Absolutely might. And I got this, by the way, Brian DeFelice on Twitter. He does the Skate Pod, which is a Bruins podcast. He does some writing as well. And he kind of lays this out. He's like, look, it might be crazy, but he's 26. Is a guaranteed true number 1 center. Even when he's bad, he's better than what you have at your number 1 center. Like, that was what, 20 more points than Elias Lindholm had last year? You know? Or excuse me. Played less games. Sorry. Point per game is much better. Sorry. They're both at about 45 points, but Lindholm played all 82. Pettersson played 64. So apologies on that. Better power play player, no doubt. That in this way, you can still optimize David Pasternak's and Charlie McAvoy's prime. And there is no guarantee that the Bruins draft a true number 1 center in those guys' prime. Like, really, again, we talk about they don't grow on trees. You might not have a true bona fide number 1 center at number 7 in the draft this year where you're picking. So, and you don't, Matt Patra is not that, right? You know, you don't have one that's just coming down the pike, or, you know, he's 21 and he's going to be something. You don't have that yet. So Brian DeFelice asks, if so, how far away are you from a true number 1 center, and will they be better than Elias Pettersson? Or how likely is it that you sign a true number 1 center in a future free agent class? The only guy that would hold me up on this is if you went out and got Jack Eichel in free agency next year. And if the Bruins decide that is the case, and they need to do something they haven't done in 20 fucking years, and that is sign a premium free agent at market value, then I'm all in on that. And it makes so much sense. And any franchise would be willing to give Jack Eichel $14 million a year next year. But if the Bruins are going to do what they've done the last 20 years, then you might as well trade for Elias Pettersson. Because again, they don't go out. The last premium free agent guy they got on the open market was Zdeno Chara. Chara and Savard were the same offseason. They haven't done that since then. Not one. Go up and down the list. Not one have they gone out and got in free agency. If that's the way you want to go and you're saying we're waiting for Jack Eichel, then fine. Suck this year for all I care. Don't trade for Elias Pettersson. And if that's the plan, I'll eat my words in 13 months. I'll be a pig in shit. But I just don't think that's going to happen. So that's why I think this Elias Pettersson is something to think about. Is it the best move the Bruins can make right now? I don't know. I think signing Mitch Marner is a better move. But anyway, let's see what else Brian DeFelice had to say. He says, I'm very curious about the results. The poll results as it stands right now, which is 5 hours in, 60% said no. 40% said yes. I voted yes just to see where it was. There are red flags for Pettersson, but I think management feels pressure to optimize their core players' primes, as well as drafting and developing for the future of the team. Because again, this is a future piece. He's 26. Okay? He's going to be 27, turns 27 during the season. Management knows they need a true number 1 center. And if Pastrnak and McAvoy were younger, patience would be easier to have, but they're both approaching 30. If there's a guarantee of acquiring a key missing skill set right now, rather than maybe in the future time TBD, they would have to consider it, right? And I agree. I think they would have to consider it. There are some other smaller pieces you can go and get. You know, Marco Rossi, which might cost you a first-round pick also. Obviously Mitch Marner on the wing, different story. Connor Garland maybe in a trade, another Vancouver thing. But I think it's absolutely something you have to consider. You talk about Mitch Marner being a guy in his prime, 100-point scorer, going to market. Those don't grow on trees. Elias Pettersson's a guy going into his prime, who's been a 100-point scorer, whose trade value is as low as it's ever been. Those don't grow on trees either. The Bruins really have to consider it. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, helps us on the path towards 4,000 subscribers, of which we are bearing down on. You can catch us live on YouTube every weekday and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. Check out the other videos on the channel, talking crazy Bruins trade scenarios and everything else going on in the world of Boston sports. I'm your host, Cam Stuart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. We will see you tomorrow on a little ditty that we like to call The Cam Show.